Hello everyone and welcome back to Superboy Beyond, and we are returning to the Ruby Spears Superman show this week. It's been a little while since we've watched an episode of this. I don't know why we've been putting it
at
off.
least.
A couple of months, yeah, at the very least. I don't know why maybe we've been putting this one off, because I've been looking forward to the episode that has the prankster in it since we started watching. And we're finally here, and we put it off for a couple of months. It just doesn't make sense. So I guess I just didn't know. But we're going to have some fun today watching another Ruby Spears. And if this is your first time watching alongside us, this is not like a typical YouTube reaction video where you're going to hear audio from the thing and just see a bunch of clips. There will be a heavily filtered version of the episode in the middle right there, purely just so you can keep in time with us. You know, if somebody rings you on the phone or you need to answer the door, just whatever, and you need to pause the episode, it lets you get back in sync with us. All we'll do is count you in with a 3, 2, 1 play, and as long as you hit play on your copy when we do, you should be in sync. So get ready. This is Ruby Spears Superman episode 6 in 3, 2, 1 play.
Now, I know you don't like talking about the intros too much anymore, but
I just noticed we were doing it every week.
Yeah, the Ruby Spears show has a really great opening sequence.
Oh yeah,
you know, and using the classic, you know, radio show / Superman George Reeves show, you know, opening narration. You know, I think it was done by Jackson Beck here, or I'm not sure who did the opening narration, but you know, it lines up so perfectly with everything that's going on in it.
Absolutely. And it's also just kind of interesting to hear that classic style narration from, as you say, the old radio shows, George Reeves, all of that. But hearing that sort of thing over the John Williams Superman theme is just kind of a weird thing. Like, it's obviously the only time I think that would have ever happened.
Yep. So we got the episode Triple Play, which, of course, as Tom just mentioned, is a prankster episode. It's also a baseball episode for those of you across the pond, like Tom. And it involves the World Series. And the two teams that are playing are the Metropolis Meteors and the Gotham Goliaths. So this is the only reference to Batman in the entire series.
Wonder Woman makes an appearance at some point, though, right?
And in a couple of episodes.
I wonder why they never had Batman.
Probably because
maybe it was something they were saving for season 2 or something.
Well, if they ever got to a season 2, but I think most of the reason is because they were at the process of making the Batman movie at this time.
Right.
Which that movie would have come out in. See, this was around late 1988. So Batman was like 7 months away at this point.
That is true. And yeah, let's face it, you know, Warner Brothers used to pay very special mind to not over saturating just Batman content for the fans. You know, they didn't want too many different Batmen out there at the same time. They seem to have completely abandoned that now, but
yeah, because
let's face it.
Yeah, anytime you go into a toy store now, it's 1,000 Batmans on the shelf.
Yeah, but even in movies and TV, you know, how many Batmen are there right now? There's the Matt Reeves Batman. There's, in theory, going to be the DCU Batman soon. We just lost Affleck, and Keaton just came back, so that's 4.
Yeah, and then
I think, you know, there was
to be on Netflix.
There's that. There was also a Batman on Titans, a Batman very briefly at the beginning of that oh God, what was it called? Gotham Knights, the crap CW show, technically had Batman at the start. I mean, we had Gotham. I guess technically we've got Joker, although Batman's not in the Joker movies. They really don't care about oversaturating with Batman stuff now, do they? Wish they'd give Superman a little bit more attention. Maybe they will. Maybe this new movie will cause some love to be sent Superman's way. Who knows?
Yeah. So the prankster is attempting to do something at the World Series. We don't know exactly what yet. And the prankster here is voiced by veteran actor Howard Morris.
Can't
Morris,
say I'm familiar with him.
He's best known for playing Ernest on the Andy Griffith Show.
I never watched it.
Yep. He was also voices for the Flintstones, the Jetsons, the Atom Ant Show, and Garfield and Friends.
Well, I used to watch a lot of Flintstones and Jetsons when I was a kid, so maybe I've heard his voice there.
Yep.
I do like the voice that what's his name uses for Clark Kent in this. I like how he's done the sort of radio thing. Although it's the same thing Christopher Reeve did, you know, slightly more high-pitched voice for Clark Kent. It works.
Yep. And that's Bo Weaver doing the voice of Superman here. So now something's going on at the Metropolis Modern Art Museum, and the prankster is involved.
Oh, and we've just had a slight colorization problem.
Yep.
Gotta love when a show is slightly low budget and massive errors like that somehow manage to make it into the final episode.
And if you look at the guns these thugs are carrying, they've got the heads of rubber chickens on them.
Huh. Yeah, nice little early clue that it's the prankster, I guess. I do like the designs in this show. Whenever they have like a nice piece of sci-fi equipment, it's always a pretty fun design. Oh, and there he is.
In all his goofy glory.
Yeah, looking basically exactly like the comics. I think some slight color changes, but I can't, without picking up one of the comics and actually comparing, I wouldn't be able to tell you what stuff has actually changed. Maybe his hat. I can't remember.
But they got everything right. You know, the odd body shape, the big nose.
Oh yeah,
everything.
Just the shape of his nose. You know, the way it sort of points upwards. Yeah, it's very much like the comics. But then, you know, that's the beauty of animation. You can just mimic, you know, the designs from the comic books directly.
Yeah.
Or at least you can with this sort of style of animation, you know. Maybe you couldn't with the Bruce Timm stuff. You would have to change the designs quite a bit there.
Yeah, that's a character I kind of wish we had gotten on the Bruce Timm animated series.
I mean, as far as I can remember, the only time the prankster has appeared outside of the comics is, I mean, I don't know if he did in Justice League or anything like that, but
nope, no
obviously
Justice
Lois
League.
and Clark. Yeah, but Lois and Clark had the prankster. Yeah, it wasn't a good adaptation. And it did annoy me that while they were doing the investigative part of that episode, they actually had the prankster's real name in it, but it turned out to be a red herring and it wasn't actually him, which okay, you're trying to subvert the expectations, but unless the guy you've got replacing the prankster is better, I don't think it works.
Well, Bronson Pinchot as an actor is good, and he did a very serviceable job for the character they created, but that wasn't the prankster.
Yeah. The only thing I've seen him in is The Langoliers, and even that was a long time ago.
Mm.
And that was not a good miniseries. It was it was pretty awful.
Yep.
But I remember he was quite over the top in that as well. So he's just covered Superman in what, concrete or something?
Quick drying, what he called quick drying peanut butter and jelly prankster style, which is just quick drying cement.
Why would that stop Superman?
It wouldn't.
Unless it's got some sort of paralyzing agent mixed in as well that freezes him in place. Yeah. See, he should have done that immediately, really, but never mind. It's funny because earlier on when you said we don't know what the prankster's plan is yet with the World Series, the first thing that jumped into my head was there's a bomb inside the baseball, just because of that one episode of Superboy.
Yep. All I'm going to say is that it's something a little bit more involved and sci-fi-ish than that.
I miss the days when supervillains in shows would just have these cronies that were just completely over the top and oh yeah, let's don't question the boss and all of this stuff. I miss when there were goons working for all the major supervillains. You don't see it as much anymore. They might have a couple of thugs with guns, but that's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, his eye just floated away there. Okay, so what's this happening then? He's transporting people out of there, including the grass.
He's taking the whole World Series.
I love that. He's just dumping it in the middle of an island somewhere.
Yep. Now we'll find out what his plan is, and I get his point, but it's a little ridiculous.
I mean, it's the prankster, isn't it? He is a little ridiculous. One thing I'll have to say as well about all these older shows, they may have had a pretty low budget, but the backgrounds are so well painted. Like this whole island scene so far, I just think it's beautifully done.
Yeah.
And you know why they do it. If the backgrounds look as good as possible, it helps hide the shortcomings of the stuff that's actually moving. But that's okay.
Yeah,
let's face it, Star Trek, the animated series,
colors on Superman's chest symbol.
Yeah. Although maybe some things are impossible to ignore, but
so basically, he stole the robotic art from the museum to act as a team for him. He wants to have his own World Series because when the judge sent him away, he couldn't watch the games or go to the games. You're in jail. Okay. That's what jail is supposed to do. It's supposed to keep you from fun.
Yeah. I guess nowadays they would have been able to watch. I don't know. Are sports games banned? Because I imagine, I know that football in the UK, the teams tend, like the fans of each team tend to hate each other and there's often fights that break out. maybe they would avoid showing sports games in prison just to avoid mini riots breaking out.
Well, baseball's a little different, in this country than football is in the UK.
I don't know.
Unless you're
Maybe
talking
hockey.
about the
I know
Yankees
hockey
and
players fight a lot, so maybe the fans do as well. I love that he's got monkeys changing the scores as well. Like, it's just it's funny looking at this. I know it's supposed to be showing this is why baseball cannot be played under the pranksters rules, just because they're in the middle of the world. I don't know. I think it would make baseball a hell of a lot more interesting if there was just all these factors that keep coming in and ruining the game.
Yeah.
The idea of a bird grabbing the ball mid throw or whatever. What a shame we don't live in a world like that, eh? Although, granted, if we did, we would also live in a world where there's supervillains attacking every other day. So maybe it wouldn't be as good.
The funny thing is, after I watched this episode of Ruby Spears when I was a kid, anytime the prankster would show up in the comics, I always heard Howard Morris's voice when I was reading the comics. Because, I mean, they picked the perfect voice for him.
It's funny, whenever I was reading him, because this is the first time I've actually heard his voice, I always pictured him sounding similar to Roger Rabbit for some reason. I don't know, it's something like that. I think that voice is also probably just as annoying as Roger Rabbit is.
Yes, but there's a difference between him and Roger Rabbit. Roger Rabbit is lovable.
And Roger Rabbit is funny. I don't think the prankster is funny. As hard as he tries, his pranks aren't funny. And that kind of defeats the point of a prank.
Yeah.
But then, it's the same thing as the Joker. The Joker is not funny. I don't think the Joker's ever made me laugh. But obviously that's not the point of the Joker. But then you can say that about every villain on the show, can't you, really?
Yeah.
Like, you'd never want to play a game with the Toyman.
Depends on the version of the Toyman we're talking about. I mean, if we're talking about the version from, the old 1960s Filmation series or even the Super Friends, yeah, maybe. It wasn't particularly...
Maybe the Lois and Clark Toyman as well, because by the end of that, he changed his ways anyway. It was just the guy... What was it? What show was it from? The actor and actress playing Toy...
Sherman Hemsley and... Sherman Hemsley and the woman who played the wife on the Jeffersons.
Right, it was the Jeffersons. An interesting idea, reuniting cast members from a different show. But it's not a great episode.
Yeah, it's one of the ones that Dean Cain actually wrote, and while he has some great ideas in it, the execution falls flat.
Yeah. It does just go to show, sometimes when actors from the show write an episode, it can be one of the best episodes of the show, like, what is it, Wish for Armageddon, or where Mind Games or Darla Goes Ballistic, sometimes they work really, really well, but every now and then you get a Toyman Christmas Lois and Clark style episode that's...
And I love this moment that just occurred. He saves the prankster from getting eaten by the shark. The prankster's trying to thank him. He says, "I just didn't want to give the shark indigestion."
I like that.
Now
That
the
is one
traditional.
thing that I'm liking about this show. You know, a lot of the time people think that Superman can be quite boring. He's just very flat. He's the same sort of character all the time. But a lot of people forget that Superman really does have a personality. You know, he can get a bit snippy with the villains on occasion if they've pissed him off to such an extent. You know, he can be
Yeah.
a little bit sarcastic from time to time. It's not all the time. It's quite rare that someone actually gets under his skin in that way, but I like that this show remembers that Superman actually has a personality, you know. Because let's face it, there's a lot of adaptations of Superman where they've completely forgotten that part.
Mm.
I like that though. It's an interesting version of the prankster. I see what you mean about his plan not making that much sense. I guess he just wanted to play his own World Series at the end of the day, and I guess he did get to do that. But is it worth going back to prison? How many games is he going to miss this time?
Well, the whole part about the plan though was no matter who won the game, Superman's going to lose because if the pranksters team wins, the judge gets killed.
Mm.
If the pranksters team loses, Lois and Jimmy get killed.
Yeah,
And
it's
he
all
even
about
says,
Superman finding another way, you know,
yeah,
which is always a great start for a story.
yeah.
Spider Woman. This is a crossover I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, so now we're watching the Kent family album segment, which, as you pointed out, are kind of like the old Super Baby shorts from the comics.
Mm. It's a great way of showing flashbacks to Clark's childhood. You know, you wouldn't necessarily want an entire show based around this, but you know, 5-minute short episodes at the end of each story, I think it works perfectly.
Oops.
I was gonna say it's a different era because now I don't think parents would send the kid on his own to get the sodas, but I guess he's pretty indestructible at this point. So what can happen?
Right.
And I do quite like the voice they've got for young Clark as well. Sometimes when you have kids like this sort of age, it's really difficult to get a good performance. But I'm guessing it's just an adult, but it's a pretty decent sounding voice.
I wonder who
Oh,
did do the voice of young Clark.
yeah, may have to look it up when this episode ends. I might bring it up now while it's on. It's
Lynn
funny
Marie
because
Stewart.
I can't say I recognise the name, but they're doing a good job.
And as usual, it's it's a young boy is voiced by a woman.
Hmm. It is funny when I see episodes like this. I can't help but think, since obviously we just had the only mention of Gotham in this city, in this whole show rather, maybe it could have been fun if like the Flying Graysons were on a poster or something. Like that could have been another place you could have thrown in an Easter egg without going overboard.
Right.
Just because every time I see a circus, I think of Dick Grayson, you know.
Well, in the DC universe, you got to think of it that way.
Either Dick Grayson, or maybe if it's an abandoned circus, it's probably one of the Joker's hideouts.
Right.
It's usually one of the two. One of the two, you know. That was a good episode, though. I enjoyed that. And I do think that was a slightly better Super Baby / Clark's family album thing than last week's, which I think was, what was it, with the Scouts or something?
What was the Overnight with the Scouts? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember enjoying that one quite as much. I think that was the first of the family album ones I said I wasn't overly keen on. But I don't know. Maybe that was the week before. I don't know. It's been so long since we watched it. But no, that was a thoroughly enjoyable episode. And
yeah, you know, as much as they drive me nuts, the Kent family album episodes, there are some that are absolutely 100% great. You know,
I enjoyed this one. I thought this was fun. It's just, you know, it's a little bit of slapstick comedy going on there, especially with the drinks when he's trying to get them there. The fact that he's still holding the cups when he's at the top of this like tightrope thing, he's still got the cups in his hands. Like, can you not put them down for a second? You know, it's just, it's fun. It's silly. It just reminds me of some of the old silent comedies, you know, from back in the day. It's got some of that to it. You could almost have played this entire episode without any dialogue. Maybe the only bit of dialogue you could keep is Ma and Pa saying, "Where's Clark?" You know, that would have been all you needed, really. Like the whole thing you could have told.
Or even better, have the whole short in black and white.
That would have been fun. You know, it could have even been fun. Like, you could have had all the flashback scenes. You could have done it all in black and white or sepia tone. You know, something like give it a Wizard of Oz type vibe. You know, the past is sepia, something like that, just to differentiate it. Probably would have saved them a lot of money on coloring as well.
Yeah.
But overall, I really enjoyed this episode. I wouldn't say that it's going to be on my list of my favorite prankster stories, but it's certainly enjoyable. Does he ever appear again, or is this his one appearance?
This was his one appearance in this series. Remember, there's only 13 episodes.
Yeah. I was hoping he'd like appear in like episode 11 or something, you know.
Never mind. He's one of the only classic Superman foes who actually appears throughout the series. Of course, you've got Lex Luthor in multiple episodes. Yeah. But it's, you know, it's a hybridization of, you know, mad scientist Lex and, you know, businessman Lex.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I really like about it, especially in way back in episode 1. Or was it episode 2? Which one was the one with the Great Wall of China?
That was episode 3.
That was episode 3. Yeah, I really liked that one. I thought it was a fun sort of Lex Luthor plot. I thought the characterization was good. Yeah.
Let me double check. Hang on.
At the moment, I've just noticed.
It was episode 3.
Brilliant. That's cool. Yeah, I liked that one. I think that was probably my favorite of the Luthor stuff that we've seen so far. Although I think we've only seen maybe 2 appearances from him so far, unless I'm remembering.
Let's see. Of the episodes we've gotten, we've had Destroy the Defendroids. That was his first appearance. Then we've got By the Skin of the Dragon's Teeth. That was the one you were just talking about.
Yeah.
Let's see. Then the next time we see Lex is the big scoop, which was the previous episode.
Right. Yeah, well, the Great Wall of China one was definitely my favourite episode so far. I just think the plot was pretty imaginative.
He will appear in the next episode briefly, which is the episode called The Hunter.
Cool. I'll look forward to watching that one. Hopefully we won't leave it quite as long as we did this time. But either way, thank you all so much for watching. I don't know.
We haven't given it a rating on this.
I don't think we've been rating Ruby Spears, have we?
Maybe it's time we started.
Maybe it's time to start. Yeah. Okay. Out of 10, I'd maybe give this one a 7.5 at most. I think even that's probably slightly generous.
I would go 7.5. Mostly because of the nostalgia. For the episode. With the prankster, the great design that they had on him. It's certainly better than the prankster we had on the old 60s Filmation cartoon, which he didn't even look anything like he was supposed to.
I don't think I've even seen those episodes, so I don't know to compare. But I think the 0.5 in that 7.5 is probably purely because I love the character. I think if it was anyone else, I think this episode probably would have only been a 7.
Right.
But yeah, 7.5. I think that's just about fair. Either way, thank you all so much for watching. Sorry about the barking dog.
Remy's being a pain in the butt right now.
Yeah, that's why I'm wrapping this up now, just so you can go give him some scratches under the neck or something to calm him down. All right, see you next week.
I'll give him something.
Viacom.